our distinguished masters and of ceremony, or master and madam of ceremony, members of the high table, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for showing up for this event. Thank you to the KKYM DMV for organizing this event and inviting Philo and myself. The night is far gone, and so I will not give you the pain of listening to all of what I had written to talk about today. I will use it as talking points instead. But let me thank all of you for coming. I was here 2 months ago, had a town hall with you here in Washington, D.C. Had the opportunity to go to Atlanta as well and did another town hall there. But it's amazing that a lot can happen in a month or a week in politics. But in fact, 2 months is quite a bit of time, and indeed, since I left here, quite a bit has happened. But I want to make a disclaimer up front. This is for the benefit of everybody and also, of course, for some folks in Sierra Leone. Let me say at the very beginning that my remarks at this dinner are done in my personal capacity as Dr.Yumkella'S and not on behalf of the National Grand Coalition. This distinction is important because until we receive our final certificate in a few weeks from now, the NGC cannot organize public events. Let me also say that we have set up a subcommittee to develop guidelines for the full transition of the KKY movement into the National Grand Coalition by October 31st. So I underline for the record, I hope it is recorded, that I'm speaking as Dr.Yumkella'S. I'm not speaking on behalf of the NGC. I chose to talk about governance. I'll talk about that today and tomorrow. I talk about governance for a number of reasons. First of all, in our country today, you take a stand on issues and you take a stand on principle. People accuse you of being overambitious. I hear people saying now that Dr.Yumkella'S only wants to be president. I hear people saying that Dr.Yumkella'S has moved on from his father's house to build his own house because he just wants to be president. So I needed to remind a few people of who I am and what I am and where I started. I started political activism long ago. When I was 8, 1967 or so, gunmen came to my father's house to shoot him. I was kept as a hostage for several hours. In my close family, some people assume that that's the turning point in my life. So from age 8, I had already experienced the horrors of politics. At CKC, when I was senior prefect, I joined the group when we were doing the demonstrations in Bhutan. So yes, already at age 17, I was already in my first nationwide demonstration as senior prefect of CKC under the aegis of no college, no school. How many people are from that generation? We, the group of 1977. So yes, our generation, as young folks, we already started challenging the establishment, challenging the one-party state, demanding political pluralism, demanding more accountability and democracy in our country. By the time I was in the United States, in fact, let me go first. When I joined university at Njala, I was already a Secretary General in the Student Union. I was already involved in my first demonstrations, already 4 weeks into the semester as a freshman. So by 18, I was already in my first demonstration. By the time I got to Cornell, 1983, 1985, I was also demonstrating against apartheid at Cornell. In fact, by the time I became a professor here, as an assistant professor, 1991, with folks like Jimmy Kande, Ibrahim Abdallah, Richard During is still in New York, Reverend Samfore, Harry Selenga, Mr. Tijan Savage, we had already formed the Coalition for Social Democratic Change to demand for an end to one-party state in Sierra Leone. So my life has been one of activism, always driving for change, driving and demanding social justice, and in fact, fighting for the rights of others. It is no surprise that in the United States, I actually served as assistant to the Dean for Minority Affairs, my first professional job in this country. So when people try to define me at home, because the perspective there is power and politics and power plays, they don't know that in fact for 30 years and more before I even went back home into politics, I have always been fighting for social justice from very early on, from the age of 17. So that is me. It's always about change, positive change, but more importantly, about good governance. Governance matters. Leadership matters. Whether it is a corporation, it is a university, a school, a nation, the leadership, the way the institutions are governed matters. It matters. So if folks like me vie to go into politics, it is to change the narrative in our country. Because after 56 years, yes, we have achieved a lot. We've even survived a civil war. We've survived Ebola. Now we're trying to survive a major landslide. But governance matters. If the governance is good, prosperity will spread. If the governance is good, there will be happiness. If the governance is bad, we pay for a long time. We pay for a long time. When we did the demonstrations, no college, no school, demanding elections, people did not listen to us. We were teenagers, 17 years old. 17 years old. The late Hindu Lutrai and others leading that demonstration. But we, the young kids, joined in. If people had listened then, maybe we would have avoided the civil war. Because then it was about students' rights. It was also only we, the students, who could demand of Shaka Stevens the right for our people to express themselves freely in politics. The demand to end corruption. So let people know back home that if Dr.Yumkella'S says he's vying for the presidency, it's not for himself. This is what he has done from age 17. From age 17, it has always been about country first, our people first, our people first. And for some of us coming from the families from which we came, that's the tradition we know. That's how they created our first major political party in that country. Why good governance? When Sierra Leone and some other African nations gained their independence over half a century ago, they were wealthier on a per capita basis than Malaysia, Indonesia, or South Korea. Today, these countries, the latter countries I mentioned, are industrialized nations and ranked high on the latest Human Development Index. But Mama Salome, we are ranked among the bottom 10. Sometimes we are at the bottom of the heap in terms of human development. We are among countries with the highest infant mortality rate. 70% of our people live on less than $2.50 per day. 77% are in extreme multidimensional poverty. We have very, very high, some people claim 60% youth unemployment. And of course, we leave our handicapped, physically challenged citizens to fend for themselves on the streets. Yes, we're still at the bottom of the hill. The developmental states of the newly industrialized countries of East Asia can tell us a lot of things about how to go about governance and transforming economies. Some of those economies in Asia used to be called basket cases in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But today, most of them, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, and others, they're highly industrialized. In fact, many people go to those countries now, Thailand and others, for medicals, because it's cheaper there. You get just as good treatment as you would in the first world, but at a lower cost. They manufacture all kinds of products you buy here in the United States, from clothing to Nike shoes to even pharmaceuticals. And yes, in my career, I have visited those factories. Whether in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and so on, I have walked through those factories. Yes, I did some of that job. And you go there and you know that change is possible. When you go to Cambodia and see, some of you know about the Pol Pot era. Those people lost hundreds of thousands of people. You would never think they will develop, but they're self-sufficient in food. They manufacture clothing and shoes and other products that are bought in the first world. So change can happen. It is that motivation, it is that conviction that I have seen around the world, that great leaders came there and changed the condition of their people in spite of war, in spite of the conflict they had, because of governance and vision and the determination to raise their people up, not just to help themselves and their families. So yes, I have seen possibility. I have seen the possibility. I have seen what 5 years can do in a nation. So I have convinced myself that, if I make the sacrifice and if people give me the privilege to serve them, we can create the same paradise and the same opportunity in serving the world. But as we can say in Salon, they will paint you. Then they're so close for you, they don't measure you. They one wearer that you hate. It's too ambitious. If you say na insabi all team, if they talk too much in the radio, if I not talk, it go bad for una. If I not talk true, it go bad for them. Some people have to stand up. At some point, you have to speak out. Euphoria. At that country, they go slap you. They go pit by you. They go destroy you. When you team up firm, you resist. Then blame you for waiting and they do back. Yes. Suddenly, now you can't get all the problem. Then don't they inside the soup. They unbog themselves before you reach there. Then turn around for try to blame you. My brother and sister, if you not team up like man or woman, as they can say now, mountain court, you tie you but good. So God then will paint you and they'll go one way close by you. But I said, no, you cannot define me. You cannot define me. Because I defined myself over 40 years. If you call that arrogant, then maybe you have arrogance too. I call it standing for what you believe and refusing to settle for the lowest common denominator. So yes, 2 months after I left you in the land of the free and the home of the brave, I went home and I decided to leave my father's house. This past week, on the 5th of September, I announced that I had left SLPP. All we were demanding, a level playing field, transparency, stick to the rules and the constitution of the party. But I and Goswe then beat Pawi, then Bonwe poster, then lie Pawi. Still nobody not talk. The day where we left, them paid to me now. I am ambitious. Well, if you call that ambition, I'm guilty. Because I'm ambitious for a better Sierra Leone. And we deserve it. Yes. If you are not ambitious, you settle for less.
Say it.
If you are not ambitious, you accept that corruption is a normal way of life. If you are not ambitious, you accept that the lowest level of education we have is okay. Well, it's not okay for me. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to accept that. But I
support you.
They say for Dombia.
Yes.
In Tembuka. They say na musical chairs. They say we all for rotate. When you chap, you go sit down. The next man can chap. I said no to that. That's not why I went home. I went home to change that country. To work with others to help change for the sake of the next generation. And if the football team I want to join is not a good football team, I decided to leave.
Yes.
But I know many of you told me that I should have done it long time ago.
Yes.
But there's a time for everything.
Yes.
With no regrets, I moved on.
Yes.
I moved on now to create a platform. A platform that will allow you self-expression too. Self-expression, governance matters. This will be circulated, so I'll not go through it all. But Gandhi said, and I quote him, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." So I told you my history. From age 17 to today, I'm still fighting for social justice. I'm still fighting for that great nation, as I did also fight for humanity when I was at the UN. But it's your turn. My brothers and sisters, it's your turn.
Who will vote?
You must engage. If there's anything I want to say to you today, please engage for the sake of Mama Salon.
Yes.
Please.
We are going to.
We're all comfortable.
Yes.
We're all comfortable. I did not need to do this at all. Don't have to. I'm not looking for a job.
I know.
I'm not looking for a career. I had one.
Of course.
And I left it. But even now, I can start many things.
Yes. Yes.
But I chose this one for the sake of Mama Salon.
God
Please engage.
God bless you.
If you don't, politics does not allow a vacuum. If you not one to call somebody else ready, and then plenty, all you will do now for grumble. You go complain no. In fact, they laugh you when you complain. They say you don't get sense. Now, Brahma kids are there up here, so you know, people they provoke win at all. But when I can't join we if you be not join me by now, you don't build 5 hosts. Now that the line BK, then they tell me that. It's normal. Now football match, no conscience, not at all. And yet there are other people waiting, I tell you, in the hundreds and thousands to take over that machinery. And even chop more. And one day you go must retire on a salon. You go meet me there. Some people where I know if they go to that room there, that engine room, they know they come on again. They will walk inside that engine room, finish everything. Engine oil self not go left. Yes, then the ship will wreck now in Timapre. They wait for the next Ebola and the next storm. And yes, you go they criticize. You go they labo. Discuss how for change salon. But you know one fall you sleep to get involved. I plead with you. I plead with you. There are many things you can do.
Yes.
Yeah, many things. You must engage. That's my message this evening. Good governance does not happen by accident. Not at all. Not in America, first world. Never. Not in a poor country like Sierra Leone. Unless good people stand forward and say enough is enough. Enough is enough. You may not need to be a politician like me. I chose to do it. But to God you can support.
Yes.
And to God you can speak out.
Yes.
You can call you Fambule and Asaro. Say to God enough is enough.
Yes.
We will not settle for less anymore.
Yes.
I sure say you don't tire for they send money every week by Western Union. I sure say you don't tire. But apart from that, you want let your sister, your brother themselves get dignity. They get a good job. The country for change. This is not about me wanting to be president. This is about you and me saying enough is enough. That in the next 5-10 years, we will change Sierra Leone. And we will not allow people to just take our wealth. Take our wealth. Not because they're smart, but because they're daring. They say, until you want to criticize, Sidon Day, we will get there. They will sing by you. Say, then they send and go down. You see my baby. Well, tell those people that don't clean now. We say never again. We've created a platform for you. You the progressives. Who is the progressive? All of you are. All of you are. If you believe that Sierra Leone should be better again, you're not progressive. If you're ready for work for that, you're not progressive. Engage. Let your voices be heard. Call back na Foindu na Kenema. Call na Daru na Kailawan. Call na Binkolo. Tell them, say, we don't want the same politics again.
Not at all.
We don't want her again.
Not at all.
Anybody we want contest now, let's tell we what you don't do for himself. First question, what you don't do for yourself? What you don't do? Number two, tell them, say, let them ask her. What you do for your school, your church, your community? And you must. Because if you don't help that one in there, we don't see you get sorry, guys. You will help that person. Number three, what you don't do for your nation? Because nobody will be president if you don't pass 40. You understand? If by 40, you never answer them 3 questions, you're not afraid. I'm not afraid. Una also send a message back that tribalism should go away. People just hide behind it. Tribe, religion, and so on. They just hide behind it. The daily getting is all about themselves and their parents. Governance. Let me tell you what you're looking at. Why you should engage. We have 3 options in 2018. Let nobody don't make them say no. No pretend say no. So I tell you the 3 star choices you have. Number 1. In 2018, you, me, and the others back home might get the current kleptocracy in place. Because what we have today is an understanding amongst the big political elite that look, let me walk no more, not check me and not they check you. Once we all chat the chat, all man all right. So by your inaction, you will keep it in place. So you will, by choice, keep the kleptocracy in place. So business as usual. Nobody know the challenging comping. Anything can they make a law. You chap, and not they look. That's your first choice. Your second choice, you could end up having a one-party state. Take it from me. If APC rules another 10 years, SLPP, they go away. Then they form, then they collude, they merge. Because make I tell you, some man not able angry belly again. It don't hang too long. 10 years don't pass. Better no day. Some man not been they do anything. Decide where they have open another office for God taking on another 10 years. APC win because the policy way they win, it wants another time, not also. It wants another time. By that hour day, you go see man in the cross carpet, you don't see in kind yet. So you end up having a one-party state. We fought against a one-party state because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We resisted it at 17. By gosh, we will resist it again. Yeah, we'll resist that again. So that's your second option. So you sit on a fence, me and no mix pan politics, fine.
They go clean, we say for go sit on a fence, so no mix again. So you go rub power on. But you have a third choice. Join our revolution. Join our revolution. Let us tell everybody that nothing is impossible. Let us tell my young nieces here that nothing is impossible. It just requires time and thinking and determination that you can make change happen. Obama did it for you. But Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King and others started it for God's sake. Somebody had to start somewhere. Maybe for me today, that's my vocation. Maybe today, it is to say enough is enough. But maybe one of you might be the change agent. Who knows? But somebody has to pave the way. So I dare to tell people in my father's house that enough is enough. I'm not here to kowtow and beg so that sometimes I go be running mate. Me self join the chap. No. For me, the goal has always been Salon first. Salon people first. So yes, I refuse to settle for less. So you can sing for me, you can paint me, but we've made a statement. Join that revolution. Join that revolution. But let me tell you two things that have happened in that country that gives me hope. 14 new parties put in an application to register. New movements put in an application to register new parties. You know what? Most of them, the promoters are diasporans. Yes, some company, they not just sit down. Then decide for organize 14 new political parties. Well, let us hope they give them their final certificates. It is an expression that people want something new. So you're going to have the existing 12 plus 14 more. But if you tell me, say, 36 political party, you not see your face, and you not get signed for contribute, to God you know one change in a salon. You're just pretending to yourself and fooling your own children and grandchildren. But if you not like the 36, do what I did, make you own. You understand? If you don't like the 36, but at least you will make you own. That's what some of your colleagues have done. A significant number of those new 14 movements that are going to be given their license soon are done by diasporans. And it is not by accident. You are liberated. You live in the first world or second world. You see change. You have information, you have ideas. You know things can be better. So they decided to form their own organizations. And that's good for our democracy. The second thing that has happened is that for the first time in our country, there is a Citizens Manifesto. It was just launched a couple of months ago. It was developed by 700 NGOs, cooperating with the Council of Churches, the Council of Imams, and some of the best artists in the country. Never before in our country. They developed a Citizens Manifesto, the same way you will do work here in America, because they were financed by international organizations. Then go around the country, ask the people that what's important for their life change. And they came up with their list. We were there that day. Every district was represented and they come. You see them, they do presentation. 5 minutes with slide. But it took months. Now they compiled it into the Citizens Manifesto. You will be impressed. Very simple. And waiting they want, we people they not ask for Boeing 747. They not ask for computer, clean water, good hospital, good education, 40% women in governance, 40% youth. They say, but Tiff do so. Tiff do so. End corruption. All my way one power now. Tell we almost you get already. You what you say? Tell we almost you get now. Let you know can see you papa be left what I keep for you. Because that's we see now. Man will be the way comfort. You don't get enough for pay the boda. Now today, he's saying that he be left 7 hosts and 15-acre government land. And now yes, they drive Homer, not to one Homer, you don't do so you get 5. He say he smart pass you. That thing where with man no able do for go from $1 to $1 million in don't do one. But you no write book and they not get a Nobel Prize. But he say smart passion. So the citizens not to mean say citizen manifesto. Before you go inside, do you not only tell the auditor, publish what you get. No, it's here. So we know if you daddy been left Mount Everest for you, we know say you get her. You said you and Bill Gates on equal. So you're not Bill Gates of Salon. See, then we get people there. When they say they get to let Berlusconi. And then Papa be left all around there for them. So they want power now, they want to be president. And at that one are afraid. When they have money, they want power. They want dominance. And they will sit on your heads and your grandchildren and your children. So I give you your 3 options. The options are clear. The next day, me can work never know. Maybe next year, June, I will can tell you those as His Excellency, the President of Samoa. That 10 day we talk about outside the country they go now, not also. If you not engage, I can't sorry one. I said, well, it's not right. Me say, well, Lord, work a long way na McDonald's. Because me say, don't sit on a fence. Because me say, get right like you. It's sit on a fence. It's sit on a fence, but no one sit on a fence. It bothers you to see the poverty, to see the suffering, rough. Incomes are down. Schools are not functioning. They're churning out kids. My wife and I have examples. We begin to you say they from class 7. You say THE. He said door. Then you said I. Trouble doctor. THE door. T-O my. Then you know say trouble don't come. You say, well, how they promote her? They say, well, if you're not the big in the class, so you're the pusher. Subhanallah. Yes, now that's the day we say Subhanallah. So ladies and gentlemen, I didn't read the whole speech, but everything there, because I wrote it, is in my head. So I use it as themes for you. Governance matters. Leadership matters. You must engage. You must engage to give yourselves and your grandchildren the right leaders. Some of us have taken the sacrifice. Let me tell you how dangerous it is. Yeah. It's very dangerous for some of us. Where we go and what we do. 2 weeks ago when I was going to go to Kenema. Yeah? My wife they free to the park that 10 million rich Cambia. Was doing a retreat in Cambia for my team. We got a report. Dr.Yumkella'S, we know say here from Kenema. We get high threat level for you. Well, I don't cancel Kenema 210 for 2 years. This time, this time you are the good man.
Exactly.
But caution. Call the security services, ONS and others. They say, Dr. Yumkella'S, it's real. What do I do? They say, write a letter. So we had to write a letter. Yeah. We got police security, about 20 of them. Half of them well armed. Why should that be? Austin then be no say, I mean, they go work on a Kenema. Yes, from CKC. And they go hang on a Kenema. And they go Kakao show na Kenema. Why are they security now? Because somebody say one power by force.
Oh, yes.
And me go and work in business.
It never be.
This is our land of the free. The land that we love. Why I need that kind of permission? That is the reality. The two they not duplicate. People will do anything for power. So it is risky, but we're taking that risk. The least you can do is engage. Sign up. Sign up. Let your voices be heard. You are more powerful than you think. Some of your guys have gone with me. Is Sao Vandi here? I think Sao is still in Freetown. Where's Sao Rich? Independent with a doctor. And you know that when I find American, Washingtonian English, when you talk to me, because I say, who is this? And I say, Sao Vandi. As you say, they say dependable. So God, they say they can't you must switch that dependable. When the man boss can meet me, you don't say the man a trick man. Don't underestimate what power you have. Now that they run the municipalities, now that they send money in a house for school fee. For healthcare, for water. Look, this is my brother Timab. Now, Kono, he paints the whole mosque. That man, the central mosque. For paints that one is for $20,000. You voice me, brother, and make a difference now, Koidu. Don't underestimate what you can do. So don't give me an excuse. Don't give me an excuse. I don't want to come back here and we debate about Sierra Leone. Look at Austin Demby. He left here and went to fight for Ebola. Even the way that suits. For God treat patients. Because God gave the book. You can make a difference. This time, you have enough platforms. If you know like Yumkella, but they get 13 other party there. But don't be tied to tradition for God's sake. Change must come. Change must come. Me or by Kabia, we for be the last people we want to go. Then he la there. Then them be there. But to God we all say do so. Change must come. Don't hide behind tradition and try by regionalism. Say na able not be able. The people there before vex family. Change you people their mind for God's sake. Because you there first world. Otherwise, when you lie down in your beds, your conscience will bug you. Because you had an opportunity to make a stand at some point when some of us chose to risk our lives. But you chose to say I follow tradition no more. Because my great-granddaddy didn't say. You great-granddaddy know they now. Me papa know they now. But to God, I know say me papa been for one change. I know say been for one change. He would not have been proud to see the Sierra Leone that it exists today. With the quality of education, healthcare, lack of water, and all kinds of malaise. He would have been proud of me to say, yes, that's what I taught you. To stand up for what you believe. To serve your community and enlighten them. So I'm encouraging you, join the train. The revolution has started. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. I have taken 3. I quit and went back home. I fought internally for constitutionality, it didn't work. I suspended my campaign for flag bearer. Then number 3, I dared to say I go somewhere else. But Paddy, at least you can take one step. Phone home. Put cash together too. Politics is cash. Not to Yana more. Yana $1 billion. So we had that $4 million FKO. Organize yourselves. Finance those of us who are on the ground. Because others stole our country's money and they will use it to fight us. They don't tell we already. Let it talk in book. Let it in a radio. Who knows where they are rich, they go buy the votes. When na kitchen, when I know kitchen, when I know me village na kitchen. Who tell them say na lie. Who say we get a 1 million? 1 million Leon. Almost down the $130. We get a 1 million for one village where they call Camp D to be placed. When we give them 1 million for April, some man can put 30 million. 20 bag rest, 10 bag cement and iron rod. When you look in package na 60 million. But to God me 1 million he win man. Because I told the people that thing they where they bring that the money where they for build school for you beginning. Now the money where they for use build the Cotsbury. So many people they take the altar where they give them, they read Fatia Pana, they go vote the way God tell them for vote. So for the first time, yes, I don't say this is the go free turn, they go say they go bluff in America. Not to bluff in America. I just want to let the American Sierra Leoneans they know say it is possible. But they will use the cash. Educate your people that is money that was meant to fight Ebola. That is money that was meant for the schools, for the toilets in the schools, for the books in the schools, and the good free healthcare. That is what they're going to use to fry them again, buy their votes. Help us with this. God bless you. Join the revolution.